and welcome back to the 2024 in Starfleet Virtual International Conference. And we are here to do another database demo. Database Demo 2, Electric Boogaloo. With me again is Fleet Captain, congratulations, Chris Poole, a resident database expert.
Hey everyone, yeah, I'm Fleet Captain Chris Poole. A little background about myself. I am the XO of the USS Lone Star in Region 3. I work as a software engineer, and I am building us a new membership database. So a little background on the database project itself. As many of you know, our current membership database is over 20 years old. I was approached with the idea of maybe helping create a new one, and that's what I've been doing for the past for a very long time at this point. So there's really two parts to this database demo. First, we started with a prototype that we have since moved to a new interface. So you're going to see first you're going to see some of the registration from the prototype, and then I'm going to move over to what will be the production interface and show you some of the functionality around searching for members, changing your member information, and viewing membership profile. Lastly, we'll go into looking at a form for the MSR, and we'll have some discussion along the way. If you have any questions, feel free to relay them to the chat in the room you're in. Aaron will pass those questions on to me, and I'll be happy to answer them. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we will get started. So what you should be seeing now is the original prototype. This was designed by Captain Carrot a while back. After some feedback from the demos we've had with the AB, we had decided that this design wasn't really as cohesive with the rest of the websites that we have. So we decided to make it look more like the Members Hub, which is this over here. As you can see, this has the same header as the Members Hub. It has similar fonts, similar buttons and layouts. So this is more what the login is going to look like in the finished database. But to start, as I had said before, we're going to look at new registrations, which haven't been migrated over to the new interface yet. So I will go over there and we will take a look. Bear in mind, this demo is being done off of my laptop. It's not on a server somewhere. So if you're watching this and you're thinking, oh man, it's taking a really long time to load that page, that's not how it works in the real world. Once it's in the production environment, it should move lightning fast. We've tested that with this prototype, so I feel very confident in saying that. All right, so what you're looking at now is sort of the concept for the new membership registration application. This is where prospective members would go and sign up for Starfleet. One thing we wanted to address with the old registration application was that it was one big long form, which can be kind of intimidating for people who are new to signing up. So what we decided to do is break it off into sections. As you can see down here, there's a continue button that's not active yet because we have these fields with little red dots after them, which are required fields. Once all those required fields are filled out, you'll be able to click continue and move to the next part of the registration process. So for now, we need a unique email. I know a lot of you have probably heard a lot of conversation about unique emails instead of usernames for your login. This is just a more standard way of doing things. And it allows for us to be able to contact people easier. There's a whole slew of reasons why we want to use emails. You can also change emails instead of unique usernames easier. So there's a whole number of reasons why we want to use emails, but they do have to be unique because otherwise the system wouldn't know who they're logging in. You can't log in the same person on two different people on the same email. So I provide an email address. Then I'm going to provide a first name. That's a required field. Middle name is not a required field, but if you have one, you're welcome to add it in here. Last name is a required field. Suffix for, junior, senior, the third, something like that, Esquire, that's over here, and it's not a required field, but you can provide it if you'd like. AKA Trek name is a new field. It will probably be referred to in the production database as preferred name. Basically, what that will do is that would replace your name anywhere in the system if you choose to have it do so. We're still working on some of the functionality for that, but just bear in mind that that's in the works and something that we want to have for you to have an alias in the database while you are registered with your legal information. The next field that's new to this registration is pronouns. They're not required, but if you would like to share your pronouns in your profile in the database, you have a place to be able to do that. Date of birth is a required field, and I know there's been conversation a lot about date of births also. The reason we are requiring date of births is because we need to know if you're over 18 to classify you as a voting member or a cadet. That's basically the gist of it. So we're going to put in a birth date here. Next is the address fields. We'll start with the country. So there's a drop-down list of countries here. One thing I'd like to note is the country and the state province field are tied together. So if you come up here, for instance, and you select Canada, you'll see the state province changes, and now we're only looking at states and provinces that are specific to Canada. This database, much unlike the other database, the old database, this database only has limited information in it because we had people voluntarily give us their information to use for testing. So we're going to stick with the United States in this case because most of our test data is based in the United States. All right. Street address, you just need anything for a primary street address. Street address line 2 for an apartment number or a suite or something like that is not required. City is a required field, so we'll put in a city. State province is required, and there's a drop down, as I said before, that has different states and provinces in it. Postal code is a free form field. So in the United States, we used only numbers for postal codes. Obviously, that's not true in the rest of the world. But if you wanted to type something else in there, it's totally acceptable. It will take any input that you put in there. You can see all the required fields are filled out. So the continue button lights up. But one last thing I'd like to highlight is this phone field. If you were to choose to provide a phone number, the phone number has to match the format of the phone number for the country code that you have selected. So in the United States, we have a three number area code and then 7 numbers after it. So if I just put in 4 numbers, you can see it won't let you continue because data integrity is really important in this database. We want to make sure that we are not putting in bad data. But you can see now that I've put in the proper number of digits for a phone in the United States, we would be able to continue. But we'll just leave that blank for now. We can continue anyway. So when you see this loading graphic, that just means that we're talking to the server, getting information, trying to register this email address. Okay. And I did this intentionally because I wanted to show this off. So in our old database, there's nothing to prevent somebody from re-registering themselves with a new registration when they're trying to renew. I've heard from multiple COs and from membership services that this was a big problem. People think they're renewing and they actually end up signing up for a new membership, and then we have to go back and migrate the memberships together. So if you try to use an email address that's already in the system, you'll get this error. This one says, an account with this email already exists in our system. Please log into the database to renew or contact membership services for further assistance. So this way we'll be sure that it should hopefully cut down on the amount of people that double register when they're trying to renew. So we'll enter a different email address that's not in the system right now, and we'll click continue to move on to the next phase of the registration. The next phase is going to be where you choose your chapter. Once this finishes doing all the checking it's doing. Okay. And this is a little different too, because we noticed that on the current registration form, you're basically given every chapter to choose from without a lot of guidance on where that chapter is or how it relates to where you're located geographically, which can be kind of difficult for a new member signing up. They may want to join a chapter in their immediate area. They may want to have met somebody at a convention and want to actually go out and join the chapter from the convention, but maybe they have a hard time remembering who it was. So what this is doing now is it's looking at the address you put in the first part, and it's picking out the region that you belong in geographically based on that address. And it's telling you, based on your previously input address, you appear to be located in this region. And then it asks you the question, would you like to choose a chapter to join from this region? If you say yes, then you're presented with a drop-down, which is specific to the region that you are located in. And there's even the city and state for each chapter to kind of give you some guidance on where these are located within that region. You do not have to join a chapter in the region that you're geographically located in, as we all know. So if you select no here, you're presented with another question. Would you like to choose a chapter to join from a different region? If you say yes to this, you're given the option of choosing a region from the drop-down list or leaving it on all regions, and then you would be given all of the regions that are available with their general location next to it. So if we choose region 3, for instance, you can see now it's only showing region 3 chapters. But if we go back to all regions, it shows all the regions, all the chapters that we have in this database. For the purposes of this demo, we will just choose a chapter from the region we're located in. Once you select a chapter, you can see that it will confirm that chapter for you. Oh, I almost forgot. You don't have to join a chapter to join. So if you choose no on this question, you're just presented with a friendly message that says you've chosen not to join a chapter this time. You'll be added to the unassigned list for your geographic region. You can always choose to join a chapter at any time in the future. So let's go ahead and select our chapter. And you see the continue button lights up, and then we can continue. The next section is the family membership section. So it asks you, would you like to add additional family members to your membership? Note all additional family members must have their own unique email address. That being because according to GDPR, everyone, regardless of age, needs to be able to log into their accounts to access their personal information and edit it and change it if they so desire to. If you select yes, you're presented with fields to add your family members. And if you continue to select yes to this question, it will continue to add fields until you get to the 5th additional family member, as that is the cap for a family membership at this time. And it tells you here, you have added the maximum number of members to your family membership. But to make this simple, I will also note the email form field here is validated the same way as the email field up here. So if you were to put in an email address that already exists or the same email address that you're trying to use up top, it will come back and say, hey, no, you have to use a unique email address. But for the purposes of this demo, keep things simple. I'm just going to select no and move on to the next step. And what you're seeing here with this delay is it checking that email address. So now next you get to the membership dues. Instead of just giving you a list of how much each membership costs, this calculates based on the number of family members you've added, what your dues would be for that year. If you want to see what the membership costs are for different options, you can click here and you'll see all the different membership costs. But you would have to go and edit your information to apply that new price. But either way, this would cut down on people maybe using the wrong amounts or not paying their membership correctly. Also down here is the fields for donations. We're going to go ahead and donate $10 to the scholarship fund just for the fun of it, and then we'll continue. The next section is for additional terms and conditions. This is anything that Fleet wants to put in that they want new members signing up to have to adhere to. The stuff that's in here right now is more or less what was on the current registration page, but that will probably change once I meet with leadership and we're closer to the actual release of the database. And that will be specific to what they want, what terms and conditions they want everyone to have to adhere to. You can see here we also have links to the privacy policy and the data protection policy, and there's a box here to acknowledge the terms. You cannot proceed unless you acknowledge the terms. So we will acknowledge them, and that will take us to the PayPal buttons. When you click on the PayPal button, it takes you to a pop-up that allows you to enter your PayPal information and then pay for your membership. Once you've paid for your membership, it will send you an email with the email address you registered from and the temporary password that you need to log in. Until you are approved by membership services, you'll still be able to log in and change your personal information. So say there was something wrong, there was something offensive about your information or your name. Membership services said, hey, we can't approve this because of XYZ. The member would then be able to go in and make changes without having to through membership services to make those changes for them, or without having to fill out the whole form again and re-sign up. So that pretty much covers registration. I'm going to take a pause here and see if there's any questions. Ken, does anybody from the audience have any questions about the registration?
Yes, we do. Question came in: as an academy director, can I still look at one of my students' database records with the new one? to make sure they are active before grading the exam.
That will be in place. The academy hasn't been built yet, but yeah, if you know Jill Rayburn, you can talk to her. She's got the 411 on the plans for the academy. There's a lot of exciting stuff in terms of deans and directors having similar permissions. But we're working very close with the people in charge of the academy to make sure that the academy works in a way that's functional for everybody involved.
Awesome. And my camera has apparently died.
Oh, no.
All right. Yeah, it's overheating. All right. I believe that is the only question we have at this moment.
Fantastic. So once you have registered and you have an account, you'll want to log in. To log in, we're going to move over to the new interface. One thing I want to point out that was asked in the first demo this morning is right now we only have a login button. If I go back to the to this database and I show you the login screen looks here, there is a forgot password button. What this will do is it'll take you to a page that allows you to enter an email address. When you enter the email address, it will look in the system to see if that email address is in the system. And if it is, it'll send a secure link to that email address with a token that you click on, and it brings you to a secure page where you could then change your password. That's still being migrated over to the new database, but just so you know, that functionality is in there. So if you need to change your password, you'll be able to do it that way. So we're going to go ahead and log in. We're going to put in an email address, we're going to put in a password, and hit the login button. And you can see we have a little bit of a different graphic. That's similar to what's being used on the SFI site right now, because we wanted to try to create as much consistency across the sites as we could. And this looks like it's working this time because it failed in the morning demo. But let's keep our fingers crossed. So where we're going to land after this is the home page. What this is doing right now is it's getting a token from the server, storing the token over here, so that we can track the person that's logged in and make sure that they can get to your page. Yep, there we go. So now we're on the home page. We collect, when we get the token, we also get your context, which is basically like your basic information, your SEC number, your name, the chapter ID that you're on, when your membership expires, when you were made a member, a couple other small details. But that gets passed to every page so that we can pull your information regardless of where you are in the database, so we can give a really personalized experience. This page will likely change as we get closer to the launch date to provide whatever relevant information at the time we want to provide. So some of this stuff is just kind of placeholders for proof of concept, but we could have fleet-wide announcements on here. We could have metrics about your region or your chapter up here, pretty much anything that we think would be useful for members. The menu has moved to the top, and it's very similar to how the Members Hub menu is. There are basic sections that then drop down to show more detailed sections. Member is really the only one, because of what I prepared for this demo. These are really the only two sections that we have. These don't really have anything in them. But what you would expect to see is in the member tab, you would have your profile, your ability to register your membership, ability to find another member, anything related to members. The chapter tab would have your chapter's profile, the ability to join or leave a chapter, filing MSRs, viewing MSRs if you have those permissions. That kind of stuff would fall under chapter. Region would be similar. You could have regional announcements for the region that you're a part of, or you could have RSRs, filing RSRs, viewing MSRs, all of that kind of stuff that would apply to a regional coordinator would be in the region section. Probably there'd probably be two different types of rank assignment, one in chapter, one in region, depending on the type of rank you're assigning. That's not been figured out really yet. The auxiliaries tab would give you the ability to join auxiliaries. It would also have customized pages for each auxiliary you're a member of. So the leaders of those auxiliaries could provide information that is relevant to you in that auxiliary. The fleet section would contain fleet announcements, so anything coming from the top down. The academy section right now just links to the academy. In the future, it will have a drop down that will give you the various pages you use as an academy leadership member to enter grades or do the other things you need to do. And then you have log out, which would destroy your token and log you out. So the first thing we're going to look at is the member search. So I'll come here to find a member. And this is very similar to how the member search works now. There's some small differences which I'd like to point out. But first, the similarities are you can search by SCC number, you can search by first name, you can search by last name, or you can search by first name and last name. It wouldn't make much sense to search by SCC number and first name and last name, as SCC numbers are unique. So they will always, if you do have a valid SCC number in the search, it would always return one entry anyway. But first name and last name could be combined, or they could be done separately, and that could show multiple results based on what that information is. So to show you an example of that, I'll search for my last name. One thing I like about this search that is different from the other search is this is not going to load a new page. It's going to load the results directly beneath this search interface. So if, say, you were searching for a bunch of people, say you were doing member eligibility, you wanted to check academy classes, you could potentially load up someone else's profile in a separate tab and then keep coming back here, search again, and the search will just replace the old search results, and then you could open new tabs and continue to go along instead of having to press the back button or reload the page to go back and do a new search. So we're going to search for Pet Fleet's Randy Mitson. I know you guys just saw him. Oh, I misspelled it as Miston. That's very funny. So we're searching for Randy Mitson. You just saw him in the Pet Fleet demonstration. We're going to pull up his profile and use it as an example of what your externally facing profile could potentially look like. So we found Randy. You can see the SCC number is a link. So if we click on the SCC number, it will take us to Randy's profile. All right. And now we're on Randy's profile. I tried it when I first developed the new external facing profiles, which are the profiles that other members would see of your information. I had some extra stuff in there. I had like a generalized location, like a province, state, country. And then I had some information about your permissions, your roles. That stuff, from the feedback I got from other demos, that stuff is a little too personal for some people. And they said, well, could we at least have the option to add that stuff or hide that stuff? So for now, I've just decided to stick to basically what's in the current database when you search for somebody. So right now it's SCC number, their rank, the chapter they're on, the region they're in, their member status, their date of birth, their join date, and their expiration date. We had some really good feedback from this morning about the date of birth. Potentially people don't want their date of birth put on display, and that's fine. I think what we may do moving forward is change date of birth to just say voting member, and it would be a yes or no based on what your date of birth is. But for the most part, for somebody who's looking you up without a lot of permissions, this is what they're going to see. The next thing in this profile I'd like to talk about is badges, which are a new concept. Basically, you can see these three graphical icons here. What we're doing with badges is we're taking milestones and achievements and creating graphical representations of them that you can then assign to a member so that member can collect badges and display them to other members. So the example we have, and mind you, these are prototypes. These were not created by Pet Fleet. They will create their own badges when they're ready. But these are Pet Fleet badges. There would be a bronze, a silver, and a gold, for instance. And maybe say the bronze is you've been a member of Pet Fleet for a year. Maybe say the silver is you've been a member of Pet Fleet for 3 years. The gold is you've been a member of Pet Fleet for 5 years, whatever it could be. But it could be literally anything. There could be a badge for attending an IC or a VIC. There could be a badge for an award that you've won, for academy courses you've completed, for things that are one-time events that you participated in, for doing a big charity push and being very successful at that. The idea is to encourage engagement from the members by gamifying the profile a little bit so they can proudly display the badges that they've earned. There is no cap on how many badges you can earn, but there will probably be a cap of 10 badges that you can display at one time. And then there will be an interface for you to actually choose which badges you'd like to display on your profile. And then a link over here that would say view all badges and open a new window to show all the badges. On here, if you have the appropriate permissions, you can see academy info, you can see award info. What I want to move away from is from the 4 different links for finding a member's information. Instead of having a member search and then member eligibility and then all these other different things. If you're an academy leader, for instance, you would get, and you have the permissions to get people's academy info, you would see their academy info. If you didn't have SFDPP, for instance, you probably wouldn't be able to look at any of this. So that hasn't been built yet. We still need to build auxiliaries, academy, awards. Once that's built, you'll be able to see that information on the profile, but for now, it's not there. So the next thing I want to cover in relation to profiles is editing your own personal information, which would be the My Member profile link. What this is going to do is, instead of loading a profile like this, it's just going to load your personal information. Things like your first name, your last name, your registered email address, your preferred name, your address, stuff that you wouldn't necessarily have open to the public, but that's important to keep updated for the preservation of your membership. This stuff up here, SCC number, rank, the chapter you're a member of, and the region that chapter's in, it's up here because you can't really change that stuff. Your SCC number is assigned to you when you join. It's unique. Your rank has to be granted to you by somebody else. There will be a separate interface to join and leave chapters, and your region is tied to the chapter you're in or your geographic location. So this information populates automatically, and it's static. It's not going to go anywhere. However, all of this information down here, and there will probably be more as we continue to develop it, is stuff that you entered when you registered that you'd like to be able to change. So if you click this Edit Profile button here, you can see all of that information turns into fields, and those fields are now editable. So if you wanted to change your login email, for instance, rather than having to go through membership services or go through InfoServe's help desk to change your email address, you could just do it right here. And as long as there's not another email address in the system that matches that email address, it'll change it, and then you can start logging in that way. So any of this information that you change here, you click the Save button, it would go back. If you didn't want to, if you made a mistake, you decide I don't want to save it, you click the Cancel button, and you just come back to here. So that pretty much covers the membership profile, the internal membership profile and external membership profile. The last thing I want to just talk about is the new MSR form that we've been working on, and this applies to pretty much all reporting across fleet. We'd like to bring as much of the reporting into house as possible, as opposed to using Google Forms and things like that. And this is kind of a template we've been working on, but I'll discuss a little further once I go through this template, some of the ideas we have for changes that we think may be even better than what we're doing right now. So this is in the old interface in the prototype. It's not getting the proper information because I've been tearing this apart to make it just a back end that the other interface talks to. So obviously there's a lot of errors and stuff that's not filled out in here. But what would happen is you would come to the MSR form. It would automatically calculate the reporting period for you, which would be based on the day of the month that it is. It would automatically populate the chapter that you're filing for. It would automatically populate you as the person filing that. And then it would populate your position, whether it's CO, XO, or other, because you could potentially give the permission to file MSRs to somebody on the ship other than the CO and XO. Instead of the way the MSR form is now, which I always found kind of confusing and not really very informative, we decided to kind of adopt the approach that the registration had, where there's different types of reports that you can file within your MSR. And then you can choose to say you have that information or you don't, and then fill that information in and submit it to your regional coordinator. We're hoping this can make the MSRs a little more targeted in terms of the information that people can gather based on it, so that RCs are getting the information they definitely want to know about the chapters, and chapters are able to articulate what they've been doing without having to put in big walls of text that are hard to read for the RCs. So the first prompt that we came up with is, did your chapter release a newsletter this reporting period? This comes from the newsletter part of the current MSR. If you say yes, you're given a field to put in the newsletter's name and the published date of that newsletter. The next question that we had was, did your chapter have an official meeting this reporting period? If you say yes to this, you're presented with a field to add the meeting date, and then a big free text form field to add whatever information you have about that meeting. One bit of feedback we've gotten from multiple demos is that a lot of people have more than one meeting a month, and we want to be able to accommodate that. So in whatever way we address documenting chapter meetings, we're going to have the option to add a new set of fields to add. It's very similar to how we did the family members, so that you could have multiple meetings added to one MSR. Next was, did your chapter host or attend any other Starfleet related events? This would be like a bowling night or a meetup or an away mission, or maybe going out with another chapter from another region. All that stuff would fall under a Starfleet related event. If you click yes here, there's a big free text form field for you to enter that information and submit that to your RC. Another one that we got from some feedback from COs and XOs was, did your chapter recruit at or participate in any conventions? Because a lot of chapters are very convention forward, very convention focused, and they want to be able to talk about what conventions they've been to and what they did at those conventions, their recruiting efforts and things of that nature. So if you click yes here, you'll be able to give it a free text field to be able to put any information you have about the conventions that you've attended, and relate that information to your RC. Next is, this also came from feedback from COs and XOs. Did your chapter participate in or collect any charitable donations this reporting period? A lot of chapters are very charity focused. They're very proud of the charity work they do, and they should be. This gives them an opportunity to report that data. So much like the convention activity, if you select yes here, you'll be presented with a field to fill in the information about the charitable donations or different events you may have had. Another section that was kind of inspired from CO and XO feedback is we've made a dedicated section for command, engineering, science, medical, security, and other departmental reports. So rather than just pasting all of those reports into the MSR in one big long blob that doesn't get formatted very well for other people to read, if you click yes here, you have the option to post your reports separated by department. The default ones are command, science, engineering, medical, and security. But then there's this other section for other reports. Maybe you have a retention officer that files a report, or you have some other department that files a report, a DPO or something like that. They would be able to file their report and submit it to you, and you could submit it to your RC in this field. The last section that we want to cover is, do you have any additional issues or concerns that you would like to inform your RC of? If you say yes here, you're given another free text field to add any additional comments. But we phrased it like this instead of just, do you have any additional comments? Because you may not feel like there was an appropriate place for you to put the concerns that you have to your RC. And maybe something personal or something specific to your chapter that you want to communicate, and it didn't fit into any of the other molds that we've created for these fields. You can put that information here. Your RC will see it and know that it's just a specific issue that you want to make them aware of. And hopefully that'll improve communication between chapter COs, XOs, and RCs. Down here would be the usual information that gets filled in automatically. Your chapter roster at the time that you're filing the report, the promotions that have taken place for that promotional period, for that reporting period, any member awards that are awarded during that period, and then any academy courses that were completed during that period. You still have the option to save it to the database and come back and finish it later. But if you submit to the RC, it will keep a copy in the database, but you will not be able to go back and edit that report. It will get submitted, and these fields would all be grayed out until the next reporting period. Also to note, there's no way to file old MSRs. There's no way to file future MSRs. If you missed your reporting just like now, you would have a failure to report, and you would just have to move on to the next month and continue on. And that pretty much wraps it up for the stuff I have prepared for today. Do we have any other questions, Ken?
Yes, we do.
Awesome.
Let's see. We got a question. Will this improve processing time? Once you complete PayPal, can you log in immediately?
Yes, that's the point. What I've tested so far is the ability to, once you fill out your information, you register and you pay, you're sent an email immediately. That email contains the email address you registered with and a temporary password. And then once you log in, there will still be a processing time because we have to make sure that we're not getting bots or spammers or nefarious people. So somebody will have to go in from membership services and click a button that says, I approve this membership. But yeah, you would be able to log in and change your personal information up until the point that you're approved, and then you would be taken through the regular workflow of the database that we have now.
Very cool. And I think that is the only other question we have.
Awesome. Well, hopefully everybody's satisfied and not bored to tears.
Well, thank you very much for that informative demonstration.
Yep. And I just want to close with saying, I'll be in the VIC. I'll be hanging out. If anybody has any more questions, or they want to get really technical with me and talk about what I'm doing behind the scenes and how I'm building this whole thing and what I'm working with, I'm more than happy to have those conversations. Also, I mean, I'm a pretty friendly person. If you want to send me an email, I'm happy to share my email address with you. And I love hearing feedback. So I want to make this for the members. I want this to be very useful, and I don't want it to be something that 5 years from now everybody says, "Oh man, this is broken and I can't use it anymore." So yep.
All right. Okay. Let's see what we've got next. Is at 6:30, 7:30 Eastern. We've got an interview with John Bradbury, and that will be in Gathertown.
Yep, that should be a good one.
Yes, a founder of Starfleet himself.
Yep.
All right. Thank you so much, and we will see y'all later.